sometimes God allows things to happen so that we can focus on what's important. And the fact that I got to go and be a part of something much bigger than me, and I got to do what I was meant to do. Like, could you imagine like training for a sport your whole life, but never playing in a game? Like, that would suck. It was so, being able to go and treat soldiers and Marines and take care of them, and then just have that as part of a chapter in my life I'm pretty fortunate, I think. I was a combat medic out of the North Carolina National Guard, Goldsboro unit. I served with the 30th Heavy Separate Brigade and was with Charlie Med, the combat hospital. I grew up a Navy brat, and so you can't join the service that your parent was in. You have to be opposite, and join the military, join the National Guard, found focus and direction and community that got to help hone in on my skills and put them to use. I have felt a call to be a nurse for a long time. Like, I knew I was gonna eventually be a nurse. That was my end goal. But I knew that being a medic in the Army was gonna set me up with a foundation of skills. It was gonna give me emergency training, and just really help start my career, my vocation as a healthcare provider. We knew that we were going to be called up to deploy, we just didn't know when. So we went to Louisiana and did some training, then Fort Irwin. And again, just going over our role, going over combat scenarios, going over our equipment and our vehicles, and how do we do clinic in the field? How do we run hospital in the field? How do we run mass casualty drills in the field? And thank God we had that monotonous, redundant, over and over training, because when I had to put those tasks in play, I was in autopilot. I didn't have to think. I just worked. I just reacted. Airway, breathing, circulation, boom. There's nothing more you got to worry about. Keep the airway open, stop the bleeding, give them fluids, ship them out. Our commander briefed all of us, said, okay, we've been asked to go in support of a mission down south, and they left it vague like that. And I was one of the teams that was drawn to go, because we had armored track ambulances, so that was safer than Humvee ambulances. And the plan was just to be evacuation, get them out of the city, bring them back to the aid station. I knew I was going to where they were going to have a major battle. I had talked to my husband, and of course on the phone, and we couldn't say anything, but he was trying to prepare me as much as he could from far away. I think he had a better understanding of what I was getting into. The night before we were to go out and stage outside of the city, we had a big pep rally. I don't know what to call it. It was incredible, because there was a sea of Marines speckled with some Army people here and there. And I got to listen to the chaplain pray over them. I got to hear the commander. They really felt that this was a pivotal moment in Marine Corps battle history. And I do remember looking around going, I felt odd. I felt a little odd there, because there's just the one me, just the one girl, which was, I don't know if anybody else noticed, but I noticed it. was a symphony of all of the branches of service and how they work together. That was the coolest thing I think I've ever seen, with the Air Force and the Army, watching the C-130s above paint targets, and then having jets come and bomb targets. They were trying to get the gates open, the railways shut down, the berm opened up so that we could get entry and exits into the city. And we had our nods and we would take them on and off, because I'm like, it was just surreal because of like all the training that we've been through to actually see it come together. It was cool. And the artillery and the explosions, I mean, it's just like a 4th of July. It was the coolest thing I think I've ever seen. All of us were stationed with different units outside the city until they busted through the berm, and Commander Jadek called and said, hey, if you guys can spare the ambulance, we've got a lot of evacuations, because he had then moved himself into the government center at that time and was treating a whole bunch of, like, casualties were just pouring in. Shrapnel, gunshot wounds, not superficial, but like in an arm or a leg, where they're pretty easy to treat. You throw a bandage on that or a tourniquet and you get them back, and then let the docs take care of them. And there was a lot of that. I think once we got into the government center, when Commander Jadek pulled us in there, that's where I feel like we were able to do the most good, especially with stabilizing patients and then transporting them. This one Marine, I wish I could remember his name, but I was doing my initial assessment on him. I'm looking for blood, for wet, for anything, and there's nothing. And then I pull out his SAPI plate. He must have had like 6 gunshot wounds to his SAPI plate, 2 in his Kevlar. And I was like, you're not supposed to die today. God is with you, because you should not be here. I will never forget him. That was really cool to see. Like, okay, our stuff works. They're good equipment. One night, we got a cluster of patients that came into the government center, and one of them, his name is Jacob Nosler, and he had like the bottom part of his jaw blown off. I don't know what took it off, but we were worried about keeping his airway open. How do we even manage that? But I just remember it was Commander Jadek, Jacob, and then I was sitting on the floor so I could hold him, help Commander Jadek hold him up and suction him all the way there. But he was probably the most critical case that I saw while I was there in the city. And he is alive today, which is amazing, not without his wounds. I don't remember any specific day. I felt like that period was one long day. I don't know what day of the week things happened on or what date on the calendar those things happened. It was just one long memory. I remember convoying back from Fallujah back to our base on Thanksgiving Day, and it was amazing. The base put together like a parade for us as we came in. We were welcomed back. It was overwhelming, but at that moment I'm like, I can't sit here and be here with these people and be happy to be back when there's so much fighting going on still, and then lives are being lost, lives are being changed. I needed to go and just go away and be quiet and be by myself. And I remember calling my husband and my family, letting them know that I was okay. letting them know that, I made it back to Camp Caldwell, and then we were then going into the process of convoying back to Kuwait to go home. Get home, and thank God my husband is the man that he is, because he let me deal with things in my own way. He was there for me, he was supportive, he was encouraging, but when I needed to be left alone, he was able to leave me alone and not go, what's wrong? What he knew. He has his own decompression tactics and stuff, and he was letting me process what I needed to process. I don't think I really dealt with the experience until maybe about 10 years later. I went to counseling again. And so I think at that point I was more forced to go, okay, what happened? How has this affected you? Where was the good in this? How has this helped you grow? And I think that I just needed time to get there. I don't know if it's changed me. It has definitely left a mark on who I am. I don't think I guess maybe after the initial piece where I definitely had depression, and the fact that I was able to leave there intact, I did have guilt about that, but I don't think it fundamentally has changed me, but I think it has definitely colored my life story in a beautiful way. Again, I can relate to people who have been through that, through our Korean War veterans, our Vietnam veterans. I can be a more complete nurse because of my experience. I feel like it has helped me understand what's important in the grand scheme of things. It has brought me closer to my faith with God. I think about it, and the older that I get and the longer it's been, it's something that I'm very proud of.